Hi everyone, I'm Yaffi Lvova, registered dietitian nutritionist and owner of Baby Bloom Nutrition. Welcome to Naptime Nutrition, my weekly nutrition segment live on Facebook right here. Today we're talking about, are all foods good? There was recently an article that went around things that your dietitian wants you to know. And it was about myths that we're trying to debunk. And the first myth was that all foods are good. So are all foods good or not? Well, let's really get into that. It's a very complex issue. I'm going to give you the upshot right up front. You shouldn't moralize your foods. Foods are not good or bad. Foods are foods. They're neutral. So let's talk about what that means. First, what is food? I want to take a second and think about your favorite food. Think about that big bowl of pasta or pizza or brownies or that spinach and feta stuffed Moroccan salmon, whatever does it for you, think about it just for a second. Are you thinking about the taste, the feeling, the texture? Or are you thinking about the micronutrient composition and the amount of calories? My guess is that if you're thinking about your favorite food, you're thinking about how it makes you feel. You're thinking about an event where you last ate that meal. You're thinking about the person you ate it with and how the ambiance of the situation. And you did not once think about the vitamin D content of that meal, right? Of course. So think about that. Food is so much more than a checklist of macro and micronutrients. Food is our culture. Food is social. Food is taste, and there's so much that goes into it that is so much more than calories and micronutrient breakdown. And is that important? Of course it is. Of course it's important to meet your nutrition needs and to take care of your biology. Of course that's important. But if we isolate nutrition to just biological needs, we're really missing the point. We have to take into account the psychosocial aspect as well. And that's why we don't want to moralize our foods. So what does food do? Food provides nourishment. It provides enjoyment. It has to do with social activity and celebration, birthday cakes, for example. And we each have our own unique culture, our unique place that we come from where we celebrate in different ways. You know, for me, we have Passover coming up this coming Friday, although I'm trying to ignore it. And we have particular foods that are associated with that celebration. And that's very important. It helps to define us as a people, what we eat for different holidays. And everyone has something of that, either a family tradition, religious tradition, cultural tradition. Food represents so much more than just straight biology. We can use it to celebrate our culture and our heritage, which I just talked about. And I personally think that's so important. I love celebrating my own culture with food and other people's cultures with their food as well. I think it's really fun to exchange recipes and talk about how different foods influence different areas of life, different stations of life, different times of the year. Food is fun. So are all foods equal? No, there are differences. If you want to look at the actual nutrition of the food, yeah, there are differences. There are some foods that are more fun and there are some foods that are more nutritious, and they all can have a place in a balanced diet. Balance takes into account not only the biology, but that psychosocial aspect as well. That's real balance, because if we really just look at that micronutrient checklist, we're really missing out on a whole fabulous part of life. So we're not going to focus on that. So why should we make all foods morally equal? And I'm not talking about ethics here. We can get into the difference between morals and ethics. You may not know I have a degree in comparative religions as well, so I could go off on that as well. But we're not talking about ethics as in, you know, what style diet, you know, whether you're vegan or not, for example. I'm talking about the actual morals of food. Is something good or bad? Is the Snickers good or bad? Is a pile of spinach good or bad? That's what we're talking about when we talk about moralizing food. So morally, yeah, all food is equal. Nutritionally, no, it's not equal. I talked about that. Different foods do have different nutrient compositions. They do benefit your bodies in different ways. But tasty foods, whether or not they have a specific nutrient composition, benefit your mind as well. When you have something really tasty, you get an endorphin rush, and that gives you a moment of happiness. And we're really trying to eradicate the feeling of guilt and shame that comes after that feeling of happiness. If you get a nice endorphin rush from having a bite of really good cheesecake, why should that come with guilt or shame? That's moralizing food. That's what we need to get away from. So why make foods morally equal? Well, labeling means that you identify foods as good or bad. You put some kind of label on it that puts it in a category of good or bad. I should eat this, I should not eat this. I should feel this way because I ate this, or I should feel a different way. And what happens is that if you eat something that's in the bad category, then you feel bad about it. You feel guilty. And then you feel like you fell off the wagon. Oh, I ditched my diet. I need to get back on track. But what that leads to is feelings of guilt and shame that I mentioned. And often what we do is cover up those feelings of guilt and shame by eating more of that bad food. So if you were to see the food as neutral and you enjoy that bite of cheesecake and it doesn't come with the I fell off the bandwagon, I need to make up for this, I did something bad, then you can just enjoy that bite of cheesecake for what it is. Enjoy the flavor and the texture. Enjoy the mouthfeel. Enjoy the endorphin rush that you get and the company that you're enjoying while eating that bite of cheesecake. It doesn't have to come with the guilt and the shame after, and you can leave it at that. If you start down a path where you're covering up your feelings of guilt and shame with more food, that's really just, it's counterproductive. That's not going to benefit you psychologically or biologically. So it takes energy to get back on the wagon, right? You fall off the wagon, so to speak, and that takes energy to get back on. You have to first get through that guilt and shame and make the decision to get back on your restrictive diet. And that just takes too much space in your brain. So how about you just enjoy the cheesecake for what it is and not have to wade through the muck of all the energy of getting back on this bandwagon from this diet that failed you to begin with because it didn't account for your psychosocial needs. Restriction equals desire. When you say, I can't have cheesecake, that's all you can think about. You fixate on it. And then once you finally make the decision, okay, I'm going to have a piece of cheesecake, you're going to have like 5 pieces of cheesecake. And it's because you're ignoring your initial inclination. You just wanted a bite. You just wanted a piece. And now because you fixated it, you built it up in your head, and now that you're falling off the bandwagon and you're cheating on your diet, now you're just going to go crazy with it. So you can avoid that by listening to your body and listening to your desires and have your bite of cheesecake to begin with. This is how diets set us up for failure. There's usually a product being sold, a service being sold, and you have to stay on it in order to reap the benefits. Because if you don't have someone breathing down your neck, you're not going to stick with these restrictions. And why? Because those restrictions are not natural. It's not our normal state of being. We are not biologically inclined to remove entire food groups from our diet. So that's not how you should go about that. If you want to achieve better health, it's best to work one-on-one with a dietitian, with a credentialed nutrition professional in order to achieve your goals. And ideally, you're going to work with someone who isn't pro-dieting, pro-restriction, because that restriction just, it sets you up for failure. It works against you. So food isn't equal, but it's neutral. I posted a link earlier to a blog, Delish Knowledge, and I loved this idea. What does it mean that food is neutral? If there is a sharp knife on the table, 2 different people can look at that knife and think 2 different things. One person thinks that's a weapon. One person thinks that's a tool to make something delicious. Did the knife change? No, the knife is neutral. It's how we look at it. And it's the same thing when you're taking a piece of food and you're looking at that piece of food. This apple, is it good or bad in the context of my diet? The apple itself is neutral. It's got a specific nutrient composition regardless of the morals that you put on it. So if we can avoid putting those morals on it and really just enjoy the crisp texture, the juice that runs down the back of your neck, the back of your throat. That was funny. Um, that's really the best way to enjoy your food and to get the maximum benefit from it. Morals on food leads to reward, compensation, guilt, and shame. And this is really not how you want to have a meal. If you're enjoying a meal, you want to focus on enjoying that meal. You don't want to focus on the fact that you earned it or that it's compensation for a previous activity. You don't want to feel the guilt and the shame. I feel like I've really driven that point home, so I'm going to stop right there on that one. So listen to your body. Really listen. Your body whispers, and there are so many other things around you that are so much louder. Your phone is louder, Facebook is louder, the TV is louder, your kids are louder. Your belly whispers to you. So take a minute and go back and look at my mindfulness activity that I posted a few weeks ago, and really enjoy your food. Listen to your body, and by listening to your body, you will end up with something like an 80-20 diet, where 80% of your diet is more nutritious and 20% is a little more fun. And that's a really good balance for your biology and for your brain. So that's a good way to be. When you can drown out the noise and the food stigmas, you're really going to notice that you have desires for more nutritious foods. You're going to crave a salad, and that might seem such a foreign concept right now, but if you really get rid of all those food stigmas, you'll see your body will tell you what it needs. You'll sometimes want salad, and sometimes you'll want ice cream, and it's all okay because food is neutral. So go eat something delicious. If you are local to the Phoenix area, come to Toddler Test Kitchen, where we teach these concepts to kids in a really fun way. We do cooking with kids 2 through 6, and all in age appropriate ways. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Pinterest, I'm right here on Facebook. And if you are interested in taking back parenthood, join my my Save My Sanity program, nutrition boot camp for new parents or confused parents, as it may be. But I have a few spots left, and the program starts on April 15th. So come join me. And Naptime Nutrition next week, which will luckily be pre-recorded because I will be at the Arizona Science Center with my kids on Passover break. And I have a comment, Michelle Redman, who is kind of a superstar. Exactly, our culture trains people to think delicious and food enjoyment is a problem or requires a statement of regret or guilt happens too often. It's true, and Michelle is another dietitian who runs the taste workshop and teaches people how to taste. And hopefully I'll be able to attend one of her workshops sometime soon. So join me next week on Naptime Nutrition right here, 1 p.m. Arizona time, which is currently 1 p.m. on the West Coast and 3 p.m. on the East Coast. See you next week. Thanks.